Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, or welcome to my channel. So my name is Tristan, and in today's video, I thought I'd do a book reading video because I got requests to do a rambling video, but I thought it would be a little more interesting to read out of a book. So yeah, today's book is going to be Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert T. Kiyosaki. Book here. I'm just going to flip into a random page and read. Let's start. So, Chapter 5, Lesson 5. And this book is about personal finance, if I did not say that already, and I would highly suggest this book if you feel like you are slacking in the personal finance world. It's really important to each and every one of our lives. No matter how old you are, you're going to need to know this when you are older, and it's a very good book that explains it very nicely. So, if we are on page 200 exactly, there are two kinds of investors. The first and most common type is a person who buys a packaged investment. They call a retail outlet, such as a real estate company, a stockbroker, or a financial planner, and they buy something. It could be a mutual fund, a right, or a stock bond. It is a clean and simple way of investing. An analogy would be a shopper who goes to a computer store and buys a computer right off the shelf. The second type is an investor who creates investments. This investor usually assembles a deal in the same way that a person who buys components builds a computer. I do not know the first thing about putting components of a computer together, but I do know how to put pieces of opportunities right together, or know people who know how. It is this second type of investor who is the more professional investor. Sometimes it may take years for all of the pieces to come together, and sometimes they never do. It's this second type of investor that my rich dad encouraged me to be. It is important to learn to put the pieces together, because that is where the huge wins reside, and sometimes some huge losses if the tide goes against you. If you want to be the second type of investor, you need to develop three main skills. 1. Find an opportunity that everyone else has missed. You see with your mind what others miss with their eyes. For example, a friend bought this rundown old house. It was spooky to look at. Everybody wondered why he bought it. What he saw that we did not was that the house came with 4 extra empty lots. He discovered that after going to the title company. After buying the house, he tore the house down and sold 5 lots to a builder for 3 times what he paid for the entire package. He made $75,000 for 2 months of work. It's not a lot of money, but it sure beats minimum wage, and it's not technically difficult. 2. Raise money. The average person only goes to the bank. The second type of investor needs to know how to raise capital, and there are many ways that don't require a bank. To get started, I learned how to buy houses without a bank. It was the learned skill of raising money, more than the houses themselves, that was priceless. All too often, I hear people say, the bank won't lend me money, or I don't have the money to buy it. If you want to be a type 2 male took over my position and I walked away. Total working time, 3 days. Again, it is what you know more than what you buy. Investing is not buying, it's more a case of knowing. Very true. Organize smart people. Intelligent people are those who work with or hire a person who is more intelligent than they are. When you need advice, make sure you choose your advisor wisely. There is a lot to learn, but the rewards can be astronomical. If you do not want to learn those skills, then being a type 1 investor is highly recommended. It is what you know that is your greatest wealth. It is what you do not know that is your greatest risk. There is always risk, so learn to manage risk instead of avoiding it. Study session, Chapter 5, Lesson 5, The Rich Invent Money. How about we skip the chapter summary and we will move on to Chapter 6. Here we go. This is a very important one. Lesson 6. Work to learn, don't work for money. Job security meant everything to my educated dad. Learning meant everything to my rich dad. A few years ago, I granted an interview with a newspaper in Singapore. The young female reporter was on time, and the interview got underway immediately. We sat in the lobby of a luxurious hotel, sipping coffee and discussing the purpose of my visit to Singapore. I was to share the platform with Zig Ziglar. He was speaking on motivation, and I was speaking on the secrets of the rich. Someday, I would like to be a best-selling author like you, she said. I had seen some of the articles she had written for the paper, and I was impressed. She had a tough, clear style of writing, and her articles held a reader's interest. You have a great style, I said in reply. What holds you back from achieving your dream? She said, my work does not seem to go anywhere, she said quietly. Everyone says that my novels are excellent, but... Next page. Page 216. Everybody says my novels are excellent, but nothing happens. So I keep my job with the paper. At least it pays the bill. Do you have any suggestions? Yes, I do, I said brightly. A friend of mine here in Singapore runs a school that trains people to sell. He runs sales training courses for many of the top corporations here in Singapore. And I think attending one of his courses would greatly enhance your career. She stiffened. Are you saying I should go to school to learn to sell? I nodded. You aren't serious, are you? Again, I nodded. What is wrong with that? I was now backpedaling. She was offended by something, and now I was wishing I had not said anything. In my attempt to be helpful, I found myself defending my suggestion. The reporter said to me, I have a master's degree in English literature. Why would I go to school to learn to be a salesperson? I am a professional. I went to school to be trained in a profession, so I would not have to be a salesperson. I hate salespeople. All they want is money. So tell me why I should study sales. She was packing her briefcase. The interview was over. On the coffee table sat a copy of an earlier best-selling book I wrote. I picked it up, as well as the note she had jotted down on her legal pad. Do you see this? I pointed to her notes. She looked down at her notes. She said, confused. Again, I pointed deliberately to her notes. On her badge, she had written Robert Kiyosaki, best-selling author. It says best-selling author, not best-writing author, I said quietly. Her eyes widened. I am a terrible writer, I said. You are a great writer. I went to sales school. You have a master's degree. Put them together and you get best-selling author and best-writing author. Anger flared in her eyes. I'll never stoop so low as to learn how to sell. People like you have no business writing. I'm a professional clutch, and the young mechanic had fixed it in just a few minutes. He knew what was wrong by simply listening to the engine. I was amazed. I'm constantly shocked at how little talented people earn. I've met brilliant, highly educated people who can earn less than $20,000 a year. A business consultant who specializes in the medical trade was telling me how many doctors, dentists, and chiropractors struggle financially. All this time, I thought that when they graduated, the dollars. Next page. The dollars would pour in. It was this business consultant who gave me the phrase, "They are one skill away from great wealth." What this phrase means is that most people need only to learn and master one skill and their income would jump exponentially. I have mentioned before that financial intelligence is a synergy of accounting, investing, marketing, and law. Combine those four technical skills and making money with money is easier than people would believe. When it comes to money, the only skill most people know is to work hard. The classic example of synergy of skills was that young writer for the newspaper. If she diligently learned the skills of sales and marketing, her income would jump dramatically. If I were her, I would take some courses in the advertising copywriting as well as sales. Then, instead of working at the newspaper, I would seek a job at an advertising agency. Even if it were a cut and pay, she would learn how to communicate in shortcuts that are used in successful advertising. She would also spend time learning public relations, an important skill. She would learn how to get millions in free publicity. Then, at night and on weekends, she could be writing her great novel. When it was finished, she would be better able to sell her book. Then in a short while, she could be a best-selling author. When I came out with my first book, "If you want to be rich and happy, don't go to school," a publisher suggested that I change the title to "The Economics of Education." I told the publisher that with a title like that, I would sell 2 books, one to my family and one to my best friend. The problem is that they would expect it for free. The obnoxious title, "If you want to be rich and happy, don't go to school," was chosen because we knew it would get tons of publicity. I am a pro-education and believe in education reform. If I were not pro-education, why would I continue to press for changing antiquated educational system? Why would I choose a title that would get me more on TV and radio shows simply because I was willing to be more controversial? Many people thought that I was a fruitcake, but the book sold and sold. And when I graduated from the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy in 1969, my educated dad was happy. Standard Oil of California had hired me for its oil tanker fleet as its third mate. The pay was low compared with my classmates, but it was okay for her first real job after college. My starting pay was about $42,000 a year, including overtime, and I only had to work for 7 months. I had 5 months of vacation. If I had wanted to, I could have taken the run too. Next page. I could have taken the run to Vietnam with a subsidiary shipping company and easily doubled my pay instead of taking 5 months of vacation. I had a great career ahead of me, yet I resigned after 6 months with the company and joined the Marine Corps to learn how to fly. My educated dad was devastated. Rich dad congratulated me. In school and in the workplace, the popular opinion of specialization, that is, in order to make more money or get promoted, you need to specialize. That is why medical doctors immediately begin to seek a specialty, such as orthopedics or pediatrics. The same is true for accountants, architects, lawyers, pilots, and others. My educated dad believed in the same dogma. That is why he was thrilled when he eventually achieved his doctorate. He often admitted that schools reward people who study more and more about less and less. Rich dad encouraged me to do exactly the opposite. "You want to know a little about the lot," was his suggestion. That is why for years I worked in different areas of his companies. For a while, I worked in his accounting department. Although I would probably never have been an accountant, he wanted me to learn via osmosis. Rich dad knew I would pick up jargon and a sense of what is important and what is not. know a little bit about every aspect of his empire. When I quit my high-paying job with Standard Oil, my educated dad had a heart-to-heart talk with me. He was bewildered. He could not understand my decision to resign from a career that offered high pay, great benefits, lots of time off, and opportunity for a promotion. When he asked me the one evening, "Why did you quit?" I could not explain it to him, though I tried hard to. My logic did not fit his logic. The big problem was that my logic was my rich dad's logic. Job security meant everything to my educated dad. Learning meant everything to my rich dad. Educated dad thought I went to school to learn to be a ship's officer. Rich dad knew that I went to school to study international trade. So as a student, I made cargo runs navigating large freighters, oil tankers, and passenger ships to the Far East and the South Pacific. Rich dad emphasized that I should stay in the Pacific instead of taking ships to Europe because he knew that the emerging nations were in Asia, not Europe. While most of my classmates, including Mike, were partying at their fraternity houses, I was studying trade, people, business styles, and cultures in Japan, Taiwan, Thailand, Singapore, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Korea, Tahiti, Samoa, and the Philippines. I was partying also, but it was not in any frat house. I grew up rapidly. Educated dad just could not understand why I decided to quit and join the Marine Corps. I told him I wanted to learn to fly, but I really wanted to learn to lead troops. Rich dad explained to me that the hardest part of running a company is managing people. He had spent 3 years in the army. My educated dad was draft exempt. Rich dad valued learning to lead men into dangerous situations. Next page. We'll do this as the last page. Leadership is what you need to learn next, he said. If you're not a good leader, you'll get shot in the back, just like they do in business. Returning from Vietnam in 1973, I resigned my commission even though I loved flying. I found a job with Xerox Corp. I joined it for one reason, and it was not for the benefits. I was a shy person, and the thought of selling was the most frightening subjects in the world. Xerox has one of the best sales training programs in America. Rich dad was proud of me. My educated dad was ashamed. Being an intellectual, he thought that salespeople were below him. I worked with Xerox for 4 years until I overcame my fear of knocking on doors and being rejected. Once I could consistently be in the top 5 in sales, I again resigned and moved on, leaving behind another great career with an excellent company. In 1977, I formed my first company. Rich dad had groomed Mike and me to take over companies, so I now had to learn to form them and put them together. My first product, the nylon and Velcro wallet, was manufactured in the Far East and shipped to a warehouse in New York, near where I had gone to school. My former education was complete and it was time to test my wings. If I failed, I would go broke, which dad thought it was best to go broke before 30. You still have time to recover, was his advice. On the eve of my 30th birthday, my first shipment left Korea for New York. Today, I still do business internationally, and as my rich dad encouraged me to do, I keep seeking the emerging nations. Today, my investment company invests in South American countries and Asian companies, as well as Norway and Russia. There's an old cliche that goes, job is an acronym for just over broke. Unfortunately, I would say that applies to millions of people because school does not think financial intelligence is an intelligence. Most workers live within their means. They work and they pay the bills. Well, we're gonna end it there, but I hope that you enjoyed, and I'll see you again soon, okay?